Hello and welcome to episode number 190, where I speak with Ayurvedic Doctor Nandan Lele about the Ayurvedic perspective on water. It's really fascinating how Ayurveda classifies water and how Ayurveda understands the healing properties of water and the different qualities each type of water has. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. I will also discuss topics like yoga, which is the sister science of Ayurveda, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, and mindfulness practices, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to help you to connect to each other. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend that you start by listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Now, if you like the content, please subscribe to the show so the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. I've also set up a new private community away from social media on my new website, Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Now, this community provides a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, and to support each other. And I have many other perks in this community as well, so check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab in the menu. I hope you can join us. I'm looking forward to a lot more in-depth connection and conversation over there. And now, here's the show. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Nandan Lele, an Ayurveda graduate of BOMS from Maharashtra University of Health Sciences, who has more than 17 years of clinical experience and studied yoga at the renowned Kaival Yadama Yoga Institute and Research Center in Lonavala. Dr. Nandan Lele is the third-generation Ayurvedic physician in his paternal family, while second generation in his maternal family. Since the beginning of his Ayurveda studies, Dr. Nandan has developed special interest in the effectiveness of Panchakarma therapies in prevention and ability to cure chronic illnesses. Dr. Nandan practices a holistic approach aimed at minimal use of medicines and maximum use of food and lifestyle modifications to restore health. Apart from taking care of thousands of patients in 2 clinics in Pune, India, he has traveled extensively all around the globe during the last 12 years. Dr. Nandan, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure, Colette, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And let me take this opportunity to tell you that I really enjoyed this melodious speech of yours. So that's so sweet for the ears. And with all the good content that you have on this series of elements of Ayurveda, it's a great pleasure to be a part of this talk.
Well, it's my honor, and thank you for your kind words. I truly appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today, Dr. Nandan, on the Ayurvedic perspective of water. Water being one of our necessary resources in the world. And I think that something we take for granted, but we know that there may be serious problems in the future with our water. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation on this foundational, life-saving substance that we need in our lives. So let's begin by talking about our connection to water in nature and the importance of that, Dr. Nandan.
Yes, absolutely. What you just mentioned in the introductory part is, I really do agree completely to that. that it's a very important topic, and we do, take it sometimes very lightly. That the availability of water that we have, the running water we have in our house or at the office, we take it very lightly. And apart from that, as a clinician, as I have been practicing Ayurveda for all these years across the globe, what I realized is people are misusing water even as a supplement. Water is an important supplement which sustains our life, and it's being used inappropriately. So it's a very important topic that we can put some light on how we can use water effectively to maintain our health. Now, coming to your question about our connection to water in nature, I would like to chant. It's a very common chant that is chanted daily at the time of bath. So, with your permission, I would love to chant.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Gange cha yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmada Sindhu Kaveri Jalesmin Sannithim Kuru. I'm going to explain what this chant is about. So, almost all of our listeners are well aware of river Ganges. This Ganges in Sanskrit, it is called as Ganga. And in the Indian tradition, in the Vedic tradition, in this part of subcontinent, that what we call as India, we literally worship water. We all know that water is one of the basic energy that sustains life on planet Earth and beyond. And it also maintains our homeostasis. And because of all these qualities and functions that and the importance of water in our life and in the ecological system of the nature as well, traditionally water is being worshipped. And all these rivers in this chant, there are all the main rivers of India: Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, etc. All these rivers. And earlier I mentioned that we usually chant this during bath because we want to, it's like an invocation. We are expressing our gratitude, and we are requesting to all these rivers that your auspicious water come as a part of, energetically. It is not possible these days to take a bath going at the river. Earlier, it was very common when the running water wasn't available at homes. But now we are quite distant from the rivers. So, but still we have that respect towards all these lifelines of India, or not just India. Every country achieves success, whether it is materialistic success, whatever, all kind of success, life, happiness, health, it all relies on the lifelines, that is the rivers. And the pure water, the clean water these rivers offer to us, we entirely rely on these rivers. So in this chant, these rivers are being worshipped, and we make a request to these rivers that let your energies come to this water that I'm going to use to bath myself. And obviously, all the water that comes to us is mostly from the rivers. So, this is the beautiful way how we can connect ourselves to water in nature.
Yeah. That's
Going
beautiful.
more on that, yes, indeed. It really, I have a goosebump every day when I chant this. The feeling is so beautiful, it is so divine that I can actually feel the goosebumps every day. More on that is how we are connected to water in nature. As according to Ayurveda, one of the basic principles of Ayurveda, it states that we all, we means including all the living kingdom and non-living kingdom, we all are made up of five basic elements. And I'm really happy to, know that this podcast series, it also has this word element in it, elements of Ayurveda. This word element is not, new to Ayurveda. Rather, it's a part and parcel of Ayurveda. Because all the science of life, this Ayurveda is entirely based on the concept of basic elements. And water is one of the five basic elements. So it starts with space, the five basic elements. It's space, air, fire, water, and earth. And these five basic elements are present in each and every substance that we can see, we can feel, we can experience within our body, outside of our body, in the nature, everywhere, including the air that we breathe in. Even all these five basic elements are a part and parcel of this atom or a molecule of an air that we breathe in, that we exhale. All the body parts, everywhere, it is evident everywhere. Obviously, its proportion, permutation, and combinations, and their proportion is different in each substance. Even the water, what we see in the nature, whether it is from the sea, from the river, the rainwater, whatever, the water itself has all the five basic elements. So this is how we are connected to the water. Our body is, it has water, and outside of our body, all that we use to maintain this machine, to maintain this body, there is water there as well. So it's inside and outside. Now, if we go through the scriptures of Ayurveda or the ancient trustworthy source of this Ayurveda science, that is Charak and Sushrut and Vagbhata. These are the three important texts of Ayurveda. And it's very interesting how these sages, how these Ayurvedic physicians have classified water that is available in the nature. So they say that we can classify this water that is available in the nature in four groups. They start with dhara. Again, all these, you will come across these Sanskrit terminologies, but I'm going to explain the meaning as well.
Thank you.
But I prefer to use these Sanskrit terminologies because it's very authentic. It's directly from the authoritative texts.
Absolutely.
So dhara is a free flowing water. This is the first type of classification, or first among the classification. Then is kar, that is in the areas where it snows, that snowfall is taken under this category.
Mm-hmm.
Kar. Then comes Taushar or Tushar, that is dew.
Mm.
When we are taking walks in the early morning, wee hours of the morning, or in the late evening, if you are a nature lover, I am a nature lover and I enjoy this. Dew is such a beautiful thing.
It is.
It has such healing properties, on our mind, on our body, and even on the plant kingdom, on the animal kingdom, insect kingdom. It's such a important, and you know what? This dew is, because it's so tiny,
Yeah.
and you have to be really, a good observer to notice, to realize this dew. So it gets often neglected.
Yes.
We would otherwise not consider dew as, a source of water.
So true.
We could have probably missed out on including this dew, but it's so spread, widely spread. So they consider this taushara or dew as another a part of classification. And last but not the least, we all know that this is the maximum water content on the planet Earth. It's stored in this form, and that form is, you probably have guessed it already, it's water from glaciers. So this is one way of classification. Okay. Another way of classification is, it's very simple. It's only in two groups. It is the Antariksha Jala, that is the water that is available in the space or in the clouds or the rainwater. And the second is Bhauma. Bhauma means the earth, water present on the surface of earth or groundwater for that matter. So it includes the ocean, rivers, waterfalls, etc., ponds, lakes, and even underground water. So this is how Ayurveda has categorized water in the nature. And interestingly, Colette, these acharyas, these Ayurvedic physicians did not stop just giving this classification. Further ahead, they have mentioned the specific qualities of the water. For example, if we have to talk about water from the river and water from a pond, then how, even though it is H2O, for us, when we say water, it is H2O chemically. But Ayurveda says that even though both is H2O, water from the river will have some different qualities than the water from a pond or from a well, from a lake, from a waterfall, etc.
So interesting.
This is very interesting. And further ahead, if this river is flowing from which direction to which direction, what is the route, it is passing through which areas of the land or the region, how much it is exposed to the sunlight, how much it is exposed to wind, etc. All these factors are taken into consideration. So this is the holistic approach of Ayurveda. Ayurveda considers that rainwater is the purest form. So this is the statement. There is a commentary on this statement ahead, that even though this has been mentioned that rainwater is the purest form, it all depends upon whether that rain is timely or untimely. And this rain is in which part of the globe. Ayurveda is so specific. We have to consider many factors. And this holistic approach, what makes Ayurveda so very special.
Indeed, it makes it so special, and it shows that we're a reflection. If you think our body is made up of almost 70% water, just like the earth, and maybe that you can look at the different river systems and draw a correlation with our circulatory system in our body, and that water can take on so many forms. It's so special in that it could be flowing water or steam or ice.
So you just touched upon another important basic principle of Ayurveda, says that macrocosm, that is the universe, and the microcosm, that is our body, they are structurally and functionally similar. Which means all that exists, all that we can see in the nature is actually available within our bodies in its tiny form, in its micro form. And when we have to talk about functional similarity between macrocosm and microcosm, all the functions that we can experience taking place in the nature, all the very same functions occur within our physiology, within our body. So our body is just a miniature form of this universe. And even the water cycle that exists in the nature, there is also in our body. Another thing, as you have mentioned rightly, is available in the nature in different forms. We have gone through classification of water available, how Ayurvedic visionaries or these are ancient Ayurvedic physicians have classified water under different heads. Similarly, within our bodies, this water is available in different forms. One of the form is blood tissue. Another form is the urine. Another form is sweat, our lacrimal gland secretions, our saliva, our cerebrospinal fluid. Our brain is suspended. It is protected. It is nourished by this cerebrospinal fluid. So these are different forms of water. And this makes our connection water in nature very strong, because Ayurveda considers our body is also part of nature. So we are deeply connected to water. Traditionally in India, it is really considered like tea. Or as I mentioned earlier, we worship water. There is another, India is, we really like celebrations. We have so many festivals in India. And one of the festival is performed on a full moon day. Okay. It's very specific. It falls in the middle of monsoon. You know that in this part of subcontinent, we have 4 months of heavy rains, what we call as monsoon. So it just pours down heavily. And India has a very large coastline. And all the people that are living in this area of coastline, their bread and butter comes from ocean, from the sea. And this time is very difficult especially for the fishermen to go into the waters and fish. So traditionally, what these fishermen have been doing is they worship ocean and they offer, because they have these coconut trees, are abundant in all these coastal parts. And since it is available in plenty, and as well as about coconut, as you know, that it also holds water within.
Yes.
It resembles to our head. Like our head holds cerebrospinal fluid. In Indian tradition, we find lot of similarity between head and the coconut, and it is considered as an auspicious fruit. So this coconut is offered to the ocean, and all the fishermen pray, worship ocean, and request ocean to, be friendly with them.
Yeah.
And allow them to earn their bread and butter. That is, allow them to find enough fish that can help for their survival. So this is very beautiful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
This how we can connect. It's an art, actually, how we can connect to the nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to make that connection, and also to have a relationship with it. Like with these fishermen making the offerings or chanting.
Yes. This relay, when we get into the relationship, then we have this trust, we have this faith and respect, that naturally builds. And this is what we want to happen.
Wonderful. And so I'd like to talk a little bit more about our relationship. That was a wonderful, talk there on our connection with water in nature. And now let's talk a little bit more about our relationship with water. And in particular, in regards our health, and then in regards disease.
Yes, certainly. So as we all know that water is actually life. If we have to find another synonym for life, it could be water.
Yeah.
Yeah. It supports life, it holds life, and it is one of the most essential substance for the sustenance of life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We just had a little glimpse about how water is a part of our physiology, and how our homeostasis is maintained by the water within our body. And not just within, because we often are required to replenish the stock of water within our body, because as we are performing different actions with our mind, with our body, and even by talking now, that we are talking, we are speaking to each other, we are using our energy, and this produces some dryness within our system. The water resources gradually, as the body continues to work 24/7, these water resources reduce naturally. And then we have a natural urge, what we call as thirst. We feel thirsty, and then we should sip water. So this is how water is required to maintain homeostasis, for the regulation of body temperature. And the most important function that water offers to our body, and even outside of our body, is that it connects. It's a great vehicle, a medium for the transportation.
Yes, just like the rivers.
Yeah, just like the rivers. These are the lifelines. Similarly, there are thousands and thousands of channels within our body. Rather, our body is nothing but a group of channels.
Yes.
And these channels are interconnected. And the medium through which they are connected is water.
Mm.
So what this water does is it carries nutrients to the cells. What is health? Health is when all of our cells, billions and trillions of our cells, when they receive the exact amount of nutrition and exact quality of nutrition at appropriate time and with appropriate velocity, then only we can maintain health. And as a part of receiving the nourishment, what happens is once this nourishment in form of nutrients, which is carried by again blood, which is another form of water,
Yes.
when it reaches to our trillions of cells and they make use of these nutrients, this reaction that occurs within a body of a cell or cells has some metabolic wastes that are naturally produced. And these metabolic wastes are required, to be collected from the cells and then taken to the bigger channels or the, how we can say, hollow spaces or the hollow organs. Okay. And then these metabolic wastes are excreted either in the form of urine or our skin, which is the largest intact organ. It perspires, it sweats. That is also another way of detoxification, purification of the body, and partly through feces also. So this is how water literally maintains our health. In Ayurveda, there are three biodynamic energies: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And, as I have mentioned earlier, all the substances that are available in the universe and within our body, they are made up of these 5 basic elements that we have already talked about at the beginning. So this also includes these biodynamic forces. And among these biodynamic forces, Pitta and Kapha, they have water predominantly in them. Pitta is a combination of fire and water, while Kapha is a combination of earth and water. So you can see that out of 3 biodynamic forces which actually run our physiology, which actually maintain our health, out of 3, 2 have water predominantly. Even Vata has water, but it's in a very small proportion as compared to the other elements. It's mostly space and air, but it still has water in it. So this is how health completely is, it relies on water and how this water is available and in which form and in which consistency it is available and how freely it is available. And if we have to talk about, water as a cause of disease, I have a very strong memory. When we experience something, then it becomes a muscle of our life. And if we do not experience something, then we still can feel some distance. We cannot really appreciate the value of that uh, ideology or value of that principle.
So true.
So it is my personal experience. Here, I would really like to mention this that when I began my formal education uh, with Ayurveda in the university in the early years, probably during the first year of my Ayurveda education in the university, I, as I know, as I mentioned earlier, I am a nature lover. I really enjoy uh, hiking, climbing. So I was going for a hike. I was going to a fort here in my city, and fortunately, I was going with my guru, who happens to be a great Ayurvedic physician himself. And it took around 1 hour for us to reach to the top of the hill or to the fort. And obviously, we were thirsty. It was, although it was the early morning that we had chosen to climb up, but still by the time we reached, we were thirsty. Sun was rising. We were thirsty, and there were some vendors offering fresh lemon water. So after they, for 5 minutes, we took some pause. We waited there. We were sitting comfortably, and after 5 minutes, we had a glass of fresh lemon water. And I was so thirsty that I drank up, very quickly. I rushed that lemon water through my esophagus. And still my thirst was still there. I could experience it wasn't quenched. So I asked for another glass of water. And I again gulped it down. And then I paid my attention to how my guru was drinking, and he was still only halfway through his first glass of lemon water. He didn't say anything to me. He didn't say that, Nandan, don't do this, do it like this. He showed me how water should be, taken up, how to drink water. I understood how to drink water at that time without being told by anyone, just by observation.
Yes.
From that day on, I have been observing my patients. I have been talking with my patients about how they drink water. So these are the things that if we don't consume water appropriately, it will produce diseases, and it does.
Yes.
We often receive so many patients. There is another, patient that I would like to talk about here as water as a cause of disease. It's a patient who was suffering from fissure in the anal region. Fissure is like a little cut when our mucous membrane at the anal opening, it discontinues at some places. There is a cut because of the formation of hard stool, dry and hard stool, and it's very difficult. And on its way, when it's coming out through the anal opening, it causes some damage to the mucous membrane. So while I was talking with my patient, I found out that this lady, it was a lady patient, that she was consuming ice cold water every day.
Yeah.
And Ayurveda recommends that we should not use ice cold water unless it is most needed. If it is most needed, for example, if you have a bleeding and you have to arrest bleeding, then you can use it. or if there is a high degree fever, then you can use this ice cold water as for enema. Okay, but these are very rarely used applications of ice cold water or cold water for that matter. So what happens? This cold water or ice cold water, it aggravates the cold quality within our body, which is common to Vata, and it is also common to Kapha dosha. Out of 3 biodynamic forces, 2 biodynamic forces have cold quality common in them. And this produces Vata aggravation, this leads to Kapha aggravation, and this leads to hard formation of the stool and dry feces. And also the cold, as we all know, if we learn physics, we all know that cold contracts and heat expands. So when our gastric or gastrointestinal mucosa comes in contact with too cold temperature, it contracts. And so what happened was her digestive mucosa was in contraction, which did not allow this third biodynamic force, that is Pitta, which is the transforming agent, to flow out of its sites, out of the cells. So her food wasn't being digested well, and as a result, she had fissure in ano. So I had to explain her all this, what I just mentioned to all of you, that how it runs, how it affects our physiology. And then finally, gradually, she changed her habit and she was disease free.
Amazing. Can I ask you something else about the cold water?
Yes.
If we
sure.
drinking cold water has this effect on the body, and so what happens when we're swimming in cold water? Because this cold water or open water swimming is very popular now, and I always wonder how that affects our body.
It's a very good question again, but as you know, all such questions have to be answered taking into consideration many factors. For example, again coming to the holistic approach of Ayurveda, who is swimming?
Yeah.
For example, if you are habitual to cold climates, now being Indian, and that too from Maharashtra, which is to the southwest of India, where we do not experience cold weather, almost we do not experience cold weather. So obviously when I travel to Germany or Belgium, even though it is spring or summer for them, for me it's like severe winter.
Yes.
So what I'm talking about is compatibility or the conditioning of my body, where I grew up. So again, people look at me because I am dressed so heavily with warm clothes, and I can see people there in Germany. I haven't seen anyone, covering their ears while they're riding a bicycle, or maybe they're jogging, but I am always covering my ears.
Yeah.
Because of to protect myself from the cold wind, as I am not used to it. So again, coming back to your question about swimming in the cold waters, if you are already a part of that surrounding, your genes have acclimatized, you have a strong physical strength, if you have enough fats on your body, because fat works as an insulation.
Yes.
So they can actually help you to maintain the body temperature. And what is your purpose? This purpose is very important in Ayurveda. What is your purpose? Why you want to swim? So if you want to train yourself, or it's a part of your treatment, it can be a part of a treatment. But what I would like to say here that alternate exposure to heat and cold, alternate and within a short time, if you expose yourself either internally or externally. Internally means drinking hot water followed by drinking cold milk or cold juice or having an ice cream, whatever. And externally being in the sun and then uh, getting into the cold waters, or vice versa, being in the cold water and then exposing to the strong sun, etc. All these alternate exposures are very hazardous because this doesn't give our body enough time to acclimatize.
Yes. It's a big shock to the system.
It's big shock to the system.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people do that. You hear that training method where they exercise, so they're working out, so they're building up heat in their body, and then they do a cold plunge. So this is very, very shocking to the body.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Well, thank you for answering my question. And so we were talking about water and the cause of diseases, and you gave us a couple of great examples there. And then as a cause of health, we can use water as medicine?
Absolutely. See, Ayurveda strongly believes that there is not a single substance on this planet Earth that we cannot use as a medicine. So we can literally use anything and everything as a medicine, which also includes water. So let us go through how we can use actually water externally as a medicine or as a cause of health.
Great.
See, I will always keep dragging your attention to Indian tradition because this has a very deep influence on what I am because I grew up with all this culture.
Yes.
So what I remember as water as a cause of health, and we are talking about the external applications of water. So whenever I was home after playing with my friends or being outdoor anywhere, doesn't matter where I was, anywhere. We as a child, I was told by my parents, by my grandparents, that always go to the bathroom and clean your hands up to the elbows, clean your legs up to the knees at least with clean water, wash your face, and then you are allowed to move freely within the house. Again, when in India we use our hand, especially the right hand, for eating food. We do not use knives or forks or spoons. So it is very important for us to the hand hygiene. Now, in these times of COVID-19, we all have, understood the importance of hand hygiene, how not to touch our eyes, our nose, our mouth unnecessarily, and how to wash our hands frequently when we are using our hands to touch or hold different objects. So it is very important in our culture. And even if we are using forks or knives, I think still we have to follow that before we head to the dining table to have whatever breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, we should wash our hands properly. And bath, very important. Bath is, even though we use water externally to clean our body, bath has it cleans our body externally and also internally. We all probably we experience this, that whenever we take bath, after bath we feel energetic, enthusiastic, we feel refreshed. Our moods, it elevates our mood. We feel happy. Yeah.
Yes.
So bath is also very important. We can have bath maybe 2 times, 3 times a day. Every morning we should have bath. Even when we come home from our office, etc., we have to have bath. So this is very important to use water effectively externally
Mm.
as a medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And other applications of water we should talk, or what we should or must include, is the use of warm water or
Yes.
hot water that I mentioned a little while ago. See, with concerns that all the diseases are an outcome of weak digestion,
Mm-hmm.
poor metabolism.
Mm.
I have already mentioned that even the water that we drink it looks like water. It is not just water. It has all the other four basic elements in it as well,
Yes.
including fire.
Mm.
And when we heat up water, we actually add that fire energy which already exists within water. We just add to it and we make it more dominantly expressed.
Mm.
It becomes expressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, heating water or boiling water, we can actually also use water decoction. It's a very new concept
Ah.
for probably for most of the listeners. We know decoction.
Yes.
Decoction is by adding some herbs to the water and then reducing water to some levels.
Mm-hmm.
But even without adding any herbs to the water, we can prepare water decoction.
Oh.
So either you reduce it half, or you reduce it to 1/4, or you can even reduce it to 1/8.
Mm.
And this water decoction, or if you don't want to spend all this time, you can just use warm water or hot water, and it improves the metabolism. It improves the fire element within the body. It will dilate our gastrointestinal channels. It will dilate blood vessels. It will help to digest all that is, lying in our system without being processed. In Ayurveda, we call it as ama, the metabolic indigestion or indigested part of the food, etc. So this hot water helps to process and to move this armor forward, and finally to help the body in getting rid of this armor. It also used, in case of fever. Initially, if you have fever, it's very common that we grab some antipyretic like paracetamol, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But traditionally in Ayurveda, we use hot water. Just sip hot water, and then you will sweat naturally.
Yes.
As I mentioned, it adds to the fire element in our body.
Yeah. The
It
body is
improves
trying to fight
the
something.
digestion.
Mm.
Yeah. And then we sweat. And as we sweat, the body temperature falls back to normal.
Right. So you want to encourage the fever because the body is doing this naturally to fight something in the system.
Yeah. Oh, so very well said, Colette. Fever is not our enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, indigestion is the enemy, or the block that exists within our skin pores, which is not allowing them to dilate and let the sweat out. That is the problem. Yeah. Fever is not the problem. Fever is the sign that body is telling us that, look, something is not working properly. I want to add another chant to this discussion of use of water as a cause of health. With
wonderful.
your permission, Colette.
Please, wonderful.
Adityasya namaskaran ये कुर्वन्ति दिने दिने जन्मान्तरसहस्रेषु दारिद्र्यं नोपजायते अकालमृत्युहरणं सर्वव्याधि विनाशनम् सूर्यपादोदकं तीर्थं जठरे धारयाम्यहम्. This chant is traditionally practiced every morning at sunrise. Many of our listeners are aware of sun salutations, probably. Surya, Namaskar. So it's a series of yoga asanas, okay, yoga postures, which are performed in a series. And this chant is again as our request to the sun energy to give its energy to the water that is placed facing to the east, and we want the sun rays to fall on this water that we are going to place before the start of practicing sun salutations. We have to place water maybe in a vessel, in a pot, in a cup, whatever. Traditionally, we use copper vessel. And we place this copper vessel because copper is a good conductor of heat. We all know that. And when we place it facing to the sun towards the east, and then by the time we perform our sun salutations, and when we are done performing the sun salutations, then we are going to chant this chant that I just chanted, Adityasya Namaskaran. And this says that if you perform these sun salutations every morning as a part of your daily routine, followed by, now we all know that when we perform exercise, and that too like a sun salutation, then we often notice sweating. Exercise as an effect of exercise, as an effect of increased blood circulation, there is sweating, there is dehydration to some extent. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have to replenish the sources of water within our body to maintain the homeostasis. And then after chanting is over, we have to drink, again, sip by sip, this water that is processed by the sun rays. So this is another beautiful application of water to maintain our health. Wonderful. So this naturally, it gives encouragement for all of us to be regular with exercise, which has a lot of benefits on our health. And after exercise, to drink some water depending upon how much we are feeling thirsty.
Yes, indeed. And so the water ideally is warm water that has been boiled.
It is warm water. Yes, absolutely.
And Dr. Nandan, what is the Ayurvedic thoughts on drinking plain boiled water versus a herbal tea? Is the herbal tea considered part of your water portion for the day, or should you drink just plain boiled water?
Good question. A very good question. So, see, we can these are the two options that we have, okay? It all depends upon the needs. What are the needs of our body? So, if we can run our body, or if we can maintain homeostasis of our body with just plain water, or boiled water, or warm water, or boiled and then cooled water, there are different ways. But for some bodies or for some conditions or during particular time of the day or during particular season or in a particular region. Now I will come back to the straight to your question about herbal tea.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Kerala is again to the southwest of India. It's has a very large coastline. It's very humid, hot and humid throughout the year. And traditionally, they put some aromatic herbs in their water regularly, every day. So if you go to Kerala, if you go to any restaurant, the water that you are served will smell pleasantly aromatic and it will have a little bitter tinge, a bitter taste.
Mm-hmm.
So bitter taste is it pacifies pitta, it pacifies kapha because Kerala, the state itself, is an area where pitta and kapha can aggravate naturally. So this is how they make use of water as a base to carry these amazing herbs to our body.
Mm-hmm.
If you come a little north to Kerala, that is to Maharashtra, the state where I live, during our summer season, we use earthen pot to store water. And traditionally, we put roots of vetiver.
Oh.
You know vetiver?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we use these roots of vetiver, we place it inside this earthen pot, and it's so refreshing, Colette, this water. It quenches, it helps to quench thirst immediately. And again, it pacifies pitta, which can easily get aggravated during summer season. And it helps us to protect ourselves from sunstroke or hazardous effects of exposure to excess heat because the temperatures here can go beyond 43 degrees Celsius during summer.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how we can use water as a medium, as a solvent to, carry these different herbs or different purposes we can use to work on different doshas
Exactly.
and their conditions.
And I actually have another question on that. Talking about water as a medium, and all these beautiful chants that you've chanted today, does water take on emotion? Do the molecules of water change and take on emotion when you're chanting?
Yes, indeed. Indeed it does. Now, when I say this, indeed it does, I am not aware of whether there are any researches being made on this or because sure, there are two parts, You cannot question faith. There are two groups in the universe. They go by faith, they go by science. We have these two words. These are coined words. Some people are interested to know whether you can scientifically prove this. So, to be honest, I am not aware whether this has been already searched or researched or whether any research is in the pipeline. I'm not aware of that. But as being born in India and traditionally in India, we often use water for chanting and then we use this water, as tirtha. We call it as tirtha. So it is taken in only very few sips. It's not a big amount of water. But even when we are having our lunch, or rather before having lunch, whatever is being prepared for our lunch or dinner, whatever, first we offer to deities. And for offering, we use water. And then we have some chants, and then we offer this food to the deities or to the nature, because where do we get this food from? We get this food from the nature, and nature works very hard to produce this food. So it's a kind of, our duty, or we are thankful to the nature, and we should offer before we consume. We should offer to the nature that we are thankful, and we often chant, and then we use water there, and then we drink this water at the beginning of our meal. So even in Ayurveda, there are at many instances like this sun salutation, etc. This is also a part of this faith that water can, catch emotions.
Yeah.
Water can feel emotions. This again. I want to share this beautiful experience that once I was with my family. We were visiting Brazil, and the famous waterfall, Iguazu. So there is one famous in United States, in between USA and Canada. We all know Niagara Falls. Another is this Foz do Iguaçu in south of Brazil. And when we were there looking at that waterfall, my son, who was 6 years old at that time, he asked me, "Father, don't you think that water must be, feeling a lot of pain while falling down from such an height, and then it's being, getting, falling on the top of these rocks? Don't you think it must be feeling a lot of pain? It must be hurting."
Oh.
You can already see that this 6-year-old boy can connect to water emotionally and can feel himself as water.
Oh, I just got goosebumps with that story. That's beautiful.
Yes. So what I told him is, yes, it does feel pain, but that pain is nothing if you compare it to the desire of water, that why it is flowing, why the water flows downwards, because finally it wants to meet to the ocean. And unless and until this water doesn't meet to the ocean, it can go through tremendous torture and pain, but it doesn't care, because it just wants to hit and be, a part of this ocean. So we all are part of this ocean of life. We are all like, bubbles that we can see on the surface of water. We all live our life, and in the end, the life, ends as a death. But still this energy, the life energy, stays.
Yes.
And our destination is again reaching to this larger pool of energy of life, of the nature.
Beautiful. Dr. Nandan, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your lovely words and chants. It's just mesmerizing listening to you talk today. And as we finish up here, Dr. Nandan, I know you had a request that you wanted to make on respecting water. And also if you could let us know where people can find out more about you.
Yes. So answering to your first question about respecting important, most of you have heard of Mahatma Gandhi. And according to Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world. I have a complete faith in his saying that we have to start all the change that we want to see in the world. We have to start with ourselves. So I want to, through this platform, I want to make a sincere request to everyone listening to this series of podcasts. Water is precious. There is another, with your permission, there is another Sanskrit saying which says that there are only three things on this planet Earth. Pruthivyam Trini Ratnani Janam Subhashitam Mudhihi Tu Pashana Khandeshu Ratna Saudnyam Abhidhiyate. It is a popular saying in Sanskrit which means that there are three precious things on this planet Earth. Jam, that is water, Annam, that is food, and Subhashitam, that is fluent speech, pleasing speech. These are the three precious things that we should embrace. The less intelligent people consider precious stones as precious things. So this says it all, that water, if there is no water, there won't be food.
Yes.
And if there is no food, there won't be any living organism. There won't be beautiful speech, no pleasing speech. So all rests on availability of pure water, availability of clean water, availability of potable water. I have mentioned this earlier during this discussion, that availability of running water in our household or our office is a luxury. Yes. We have to really think about this, that it's a luxury, and there are so many people still on this planet Earth living without potable water. They have to go long distances to fetch water. So we have to consider all these factors. We have to do our best to protect water, to save water, not only from being wasted, but also from the pollution.
Yes, indeed.
That we end up getting into the water.
Yeah, because we have
and
the
about
responsibility.
The second question. Yes, we have to consider ourselves as responsible citizens of this Earth, planet Earth. Yeah. Now the borders of countries have it's faded. The whole world is like one country.
Absolutely.
And we have to responsibly use all the resources of water that are available to us. And coming to your second question, I run along with my wife, who also happens to be Ayurveda graduate, BAMS. We run a clinic in Pune called as Tejomay Ayurveda, and we have a website www.tejomayayurveda.in. So you can find more about us and the services that we offer. Ayurveda is our passion. It is our life. Can literally feel this Ayurveda or this science running through my bloodstream. Yeah. I can feel it.
Yes.
And it's a great joy that I have come across this beautiful science. I'm so fortunate that I got this opportunity to study this science. And still I find myself that I'm a student. I'm a lifetime student of this science.
Indeed. It's such a depth of knowledge, a depth of wisdom.
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. Well, Dr. Nandan, I am truly honored to have this time with you today, and thank you so much for sharing this important information on something that we take for granted, we use every day, but I think it will give people pause to reflect on how we respect water, how we use it in our day, and in what ways that we can incorporate in our lives that will be beneficial for our health and also more respectful, and taking a humble approach to this wonderful substance.
Thank you so much, Colette, for having me on your series of podcast, Elements of Ayurveda. It was really a great pleasure to, talk about this beautiful topic, to share a little knowledge that I have with all of the listeners and with you. Thank you. Thank you again for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm happy to share this wisdom with the audience. So thank you, Dr. Nandan. Take good care of yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dr. Nandan. I certainly found it fascinating. And please check out his website, which is tejomayaayurveda.in. That's TEJOMAYAYURVED.in. tejomayaayurveda.in, and I'll put that link in the show notes also. If you think this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share the wisdom. This is what we wanted to do, spread the wisdom of Ayurveda. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to rate and review it, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to know more about my online services, just check out the link in the show notes or visit elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.